If you hear children screaming in the background, we are not responsible for that.
If
We
you
have done
hear
nothing to...
youngsters, youngins, screaming in the background, they're not in danger. No, they're at a pool party, and they're having lots of fun. And we picked this location because of these beautiful trees, because life is beautiful. And it's a gift to get to live it. You betcha. Okay, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Gregory Dicharry.
Hey, how you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
It's been a long time. No, it hasn't. Your hair. His hair, I just want to point out, Gregory Dicharry's hair is nothing less than magical.
That's very sweet of you, sir.
Look at it. Look straight at him. Look at the magic that is happening with those locks. I can't make that happen anymore.
All right, now that I'm here with the legendary Kevin Hines.
Legendary.
And you know, I want to get some of this background, so you mind if I
no, do your thing.
kind of turns one? Well, if you just turn this way with me.
I actually climbed that mountain yesterday. No, I didn't.
So could you tell me a little bit about some of the challenges you've been through related to mental health and just maybe challenges in general as a youth?
Sure. 17 and a half, seemingly out of nowhere, diagnosed with mental illness. Bipolar disorder, type 1 with psychotic features, whatever the heck that means. And I was afraid. I was ashamed of having this kind of label on me. It felt weird, like, why me, you know? For a long time I was in denial, pretended that everything was okay. I would tell the people that I was in treatment with, like my doctors and my family and my friends, oh, I got this, you know. I'm following that treatment plan you suggested, when in fact I wasn't. Not by a long shot. And I ended up in some pretty dark places. And between 17 and 19, a couple things happened. I graduated from high school, barely. They barely let me graduate. I mean, they really did me a solid. They're like, this kid's messed up. Let's just get him on to the next. And at 18, my favorite teacher killed himself. My mentor, my friend. And that broke my heart. It tore me down. And I remember my father, and I said this in my speech today, I remember my father, I don't really talk about this too often, but he looked at me and he said, Kevin, now you can't do anything like that, Kevin. You have an obligation to be here for those who raised you, kind of a thing, you know. And he told me he loved me. I said, oh, Dad, I would never do something like that. At the time, I wasn't thinking like that. I was just so depressed that my favorite teacher was gone. But there it was. 19 rolled around, and then the bats sang. Are those bats?
I think
those are bats.
crickets, maybe.
Are we in danger of being eaten by bats? So 19 rolls around, and I'm just in the depths of this darkness. Except I'm not sharing it with the people that I love, and the people that love me, so they don't know what's really going on. You know, I was hearing voices, not that of my conscience, seemingly. You know, of course we know now that they are internal and external hallucinatory voices that existed to no one but me. And I just thought to myself, well, I can't tell anybody about this. They're going to lock me up and throw away the key. You know, my only vision of what the inside of a psych ward was like was having watched Terminator 2. I mean, really, that was my only thought, was what media portrayed these things to be. And of course, that was semi-inaccurate, I suppose. 19, and I'm depressed, paranoid, hallucinatory, and I told myself, and I heard voices saying that I had to die. And that very same year, 2000, September 2000, I attempted to take my life in a very dangerous way. I jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean it every time I say it. The millisecond my hands left the rail, I knew I made a mistake. I was shocked into reality, and it was seemingly too late. There have been over 2,000 people that have gone over that bridge and died. Golden Gate Bridge, ninth wonder of the world. No matter what the bridge directorate attempts to tell you about the number being less than, it's over 2,000 or higher. As a matter of fact, in 2014, when they recorded the highest number of suicides off the Golden Gate Bridge at 46, there were two sources directly working for the bridge that said that number was more like 60 people went off in 2014, and that they just don't release those numbers for fear of contagion, but really for fear of looking bad. So through all of this, I survived, and I found a way to live and to thrive. And what I mean by that is I still have all the symptoms of my bipolar disorder. The ups, the downs, the psychosis, the paranoia, the panic attacks, the hallucinations, they're all part of my life every day. Greg, you understand this, you're in recovery. I'm in recovery mentally. Every day I'm in recovery mentally. And, people look at me and they assume, that because I wear a jacket, I must be fine. And the reality is, I was doing this speech today here at the Georgia Systems of Care 2015. And prior to me going on stage, as I got mic'd up with the lavalier mic to go on stage, my paranoid delusions overwhelmed me. Today, I thought that every human being in that audience, this is a very touchy subject because the mental health community has been known to stigmatize its own who suffer mentally. And that's an important topic to bring up, I think. I stood there, not saying they would, but it's possible. I stood there in the back of the room, listening to the introductions, listening to the awards, thinking that everybody in that room was trying to kill me. Everybody. And of course, I knew from years of training and coping with my mental illness, immediately I knew as upon having that thought that that was inaccurate. No one was trying to kill me. They were all glad I'm there. And they appreciate this message. But I have to walk that balanced line, that tightrope walk, where if I just slip 1 foot off to the left, I fall down into that crevasse and I'm back in the psych ward. But if I do the tools that I know to come back to some modicum of reality, and these for me, when I have these psychotic thoughts, I clasp my hands together, and you might have seen it if you were watching, if you saw me in the back room there. I'm doing this. I'm saying a prayer because it's what I've done my entire life. And I'm looking at my hands, and I'm saying to myself, my hands are real. They exist in everyone's reality. And those paranoid thoughts, those delusions, those beliefs that everyone in that room was trying to kill me, those are in a distorted reality caused by my brain's dysfunction, mental illness. And if I can grasp that idea, and I can really look at my hands, and I can know what is real and what is not, I can walk that tightrope, I can get up on stage, and I can give a presentation that some people appreciate. I've been through a lot in my life, but who hasn't? We've all been through shit. I'm not even going to say pardon my French, because it's the real deal.
This guy's the real deal. In case you
I didn't say I was. I said this.
No,
anyway.
what I did.
Any hoozles. Any
Right.
hoozles.
Okay, so
Yeah. So I've been through a lot, and I go through a lot, and
Yeah.
it's today, it's now.
So, one of your slogans, or I guess, is living mentally well. Hey, is it right here?
Right there.
Boom.
Living mentally well.
So, tell me a little bit about what wellness means to you personally, and looks like for you.
It means a lot to me. It means a great deal to me. So when I'm living mentally well, that doesn't mean I'm not having those terrible thoughts. That doesn't mean I'm not having hallucinations or paranoias or depressions or manias. It just means that I'm able to function every day at a level where I get stuff done. It means I'm able to express love to my wife and to my family. It means I'm able to hang out with my friends and have a positive and productive conversation. It means I'm able to laugh with my buddies. It means I am able to live life as it was meant to be lived, to its fullest, trying to help other people, just like me, heal. If I can do that, you bet I'm living mentally well, even if I'm suffering at the same time.
Awesome. So you mentioned helping other people. Can you talk a little bit about the role in your life and what you see the role is of people who have lived experience, such as yourself, working in some form or fashion and helping other people?
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are on a precipice of change around this country, around this globe. We're at a place where mental health is being talked about more than ever. You go online, you go on Facebook, and every mental health organization is putting out articles every day, all throughout the day, about mental health and people's experiences, lived experiences, and how they affect change in others' lives. So this lived experience that I have, and everybody's got lived experience of some kind, it's just not everybody's the same. But people with mental suffering who have lived to tell the tale, who have triumphed over their great adversity, who have gone down to the pits of hell and risen again to try to help other people. Those are the people with lived experience, and there are many. And this movement of lived experience is growing more so than it ever has before. I mean, if you go back to the olden days, First Lady Rosalind Carter most famously said, instead of calling it mental health and health, let's just call it health. Because that's what it is. And if you have a liver, heart, or lung disease, right? Everyone comes up to you, hey, how are you doing? Hey, how can I help you? Oh, get well soon. Cards, gifts, flowers. But when you're in a psych ward for the first time, who comes to visit? And so that kind of lived experience lends itself to opening minds. To people who wouldn't have thought of these things before, wouldn't have decided that I'm going to get help because that guy did. And if he can do it, or she can do it, so can I. And that's the idea behind lived experience. A groundswell of individuals who suffer mentally, behaviorally, who say, I'm going to beat this fight. I'm going to win this game. Maybe not every battle, but I'm going to win the war. And they're road warriors. And they go out, and every day, like you and I, Greg, they try to help other people change their lives. That's what lived experience is. It's for everyone. So, Gregory, this is what my dad used to do to me when he got me. When he knew he was right,
yeah,
and I knew he was right. He looked at me and he went like this. And it's this old thing that a referee in the Tyson days used to do. He used to look at the camera after he introduced the two boxers, and he used to do this. And one day, I was at a speech, my second speech. All right, my second speech. I'm reading it from the page. I'm dropping every piece of paper as I go along, 17 pages long. I'm at a drug rehabilitation center in Oakland, California, and this kid gets up at the end of the speech, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Hines." I said, "That's my dad's name. Call me Kevin." He goes, "Yeah, whatever." He goes, "Mr. Hines, why did you read it? You were there." He got me. So there it is. Okay, that's what my dad did. Greg Dicharry. Greg Dicharry, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for having me to the show today.
Oh, Living Mentally Well
Living Mentally
with
Well.
Kevin Hines.
Kevin Hines.
And Greg
Kevin
Dicharry.
Hines Story.com.
Yo, whatever. Bananas. Okay. Greg.
Yes.
Now, will you do me the honor of telling me a bit about what you've been through mentally and behaviorally in this grand world we live in?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So just as a snapshot, when I was, I guess 22, I moved to Los Angeles, California, pursuing my dream of working in the entertainment business. When I got there, I experienced what I know now was depression, but I didn't really know then. I just know it felt like my personality was gone. Felt like I couldn't really connect with people. I was inside my head a lot. Nothing really made me happy. Nothing made me sad. But I was having some success working on various different film projects and that sort of thing. And then I was I'd used drugs a lot, over the years, and was a daily marijuana smoker, including when I was in Los Angeles, most times all day, every day, and so I'll tell a little lengthy of this story. But anyway, so I'm working on this film project. I worked for a big MTV thing. I was sleeping less and less, and I started to kind of have these ideas of messages I was hearing through like music. I was like really into Martin Luther King. I was praying to Martin Luther King a lot. So I'd come home from this whole day and I already hadn't slept, and I smoked some weed, and I got on my balcony. I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and sat there and smoked and sat out there, and then I went to go back in, and I was locked out. And so I go back, and there's another balcony that was just about 4 feet over that I had climbed over before, but I was super tired, and I was like, not a good idea to try this right now in my state.
No,
so
not a good idea. Not a good idea.
I took my sweater off, and I laid down and slept on the balcony for a little bit, and I don't know how long it was, but I was like jolted awake with this whole sort of vision. Don't know how to quite describe it, but it was basically like this voice, this vision that was like, if you give it all away, it'll come back to you a millionfold. And I just kind of give it back. I didn't really quite know what that was about, and so I went on this thing. I went to the bank machine. I got all my money out of the bank, and there was kind of this homeless hippie guy, and gave him $20. And then I decided went to Virgin Megastore and to buy this music, which I was hearing signs in. So I bought 5 copies of the same CD, and then went back home and got on my bike, all my prized possessions in a little backpack, and went going down Sunset, and eventually was like giving everything away. So I was starting to think that the world was coming to an end, basically, like right then. So I started giving everything away. Eventually it came to the point, and I gave some kids my wallet, my keys. I told them to go to my apartment, get my car, get all my stuff that, they needed to go to Long Beach, but basically to where I had worked the previous day for this MTV show. So anyway, so then the next thing that kind of came over me, I knew I'd given away everything, but I also had to give away my clothes. And so I was very modest, I still am, but was compelled to just take off all my clothes.
Disrobe.
Would come to find out that I was actually on Martin Luther King Boulevard in downtown LA in rush hour traffic. It was 5 o'clock. And by this point I'm tripping out, pretty good. I'm not on any drug, but just with the whole, psychosis of being bipolar and everything else. And so I get in the middle of the street. I had really long hair. You would have liked my hair.
Oh, I loved your hair was long.
Long hair.
I like his hair now. Let's talk about it all the time.
So I'm in the middle of the street, and people are honking their horns, but to me it sounds like music. So I'm dancing down the street, slapping my ass in the middle of the street, and I come around the corner, and then there's this group of 6 cops that are all standing there, and they're like, hey, they're laughing. They're like, oh, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going to see the Lord. And they're like, oh, really? Where's the Lord? And I'm like, in Long Beach. They laugh some more, and then they're like, all right, well, come on, we'll take you. And they gave me a paper jumpsuit, and so anyway, that was my first experience. I ended up, in jail a day and a half. I went home. They convinced me to go to Cedars-Sinai Hospital. Asked me who my doctor was. I told them it was Dr. Martin Luther King, of course. They wouldn't buy that, but I wasn't stopping saying that. Long story, short, they interviewed me for a while, and then they gave me we only give you something to calm you down. So they gave me a heavy dose of some tranquilizer and wheeled me up to the psych ward.
Sedative. They gave him a sedative
So,
because he was naked in the street.
And that was my first trip in the psych ward for 3 weeks, and that was I would go on to have about 12 different hospitalizations, always preceded by me being put in handcuffs. Luckily, most of the time they took me, to the psych ward rather than jail. Though I did, spend a month in the psych ward in Orleans Parish Prison, and basically kind of start to get it together. I'd stop taking my meds, or would be getting high. Basically, not doing what I needed to do to take care of myself. And when I was in that first hospital, they told me basically, you're bipolar. If you don't take these meds, you keep getting high. You're going to keep ending up in places like this. I didn't heed the warning. So I mean, that's kind of basically a little bit of what I've been through. So,
Greg, in going through all of that and the 12 psych ward stays and the stint in the prison psych ward, all those things. Now, how did that change you into the man in recovery you are today. When did it equate that you had to shift? You need to shift your angle and go a different route. And how did you go about doing that? So many people suffer and are using drugs or are having psychosis, and they don't know how to make that shift. Not that it's easy.
Yeah.
How did you do it? How do you feel? How would you say you did it?
Well, I say I did it with, God giving me the willingness. Say I did it with 12-step recovery, but I mean, I think ultimately becoming willing, getting into a place of willingness where I was willing to do what I needed to do to take care, of myself. I believe I was chosen for this path, you know what I mean, of this stuff that I needed to go through to make me the kind of person that I am now, and then continue to hopefully be the kind of person that I want to in the future. One other quick story, after numerous hospitalizations and drug treatments and everything else, I had relapsed yet again and was manic, and I'd gotten a bottle of rum from the Walgreens and decided I was going to paint my apartment with finger paint, acrylic paints, and so painted this psychotic stuff all over my living room and front door, all crazy, and then as always happened, cops came and they took me to the mental ward. Well, a couple weeks later, I get out and I'm back in this apartment. They're ready to evict me because of all the crazy stuff I was doing. I lost my job. And I'm sitting there going, I did it again. And at that time I hit my knees, and I'm not a real, church person or religious or even that matter, but I just hit my knees and it was like, God, please help me. And what came crystal clear is, help yourself.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So
boom.
So, and that really clicked and registered because, people have been trying to help me, all my life. I've been blessed with, great parents that stood by me and tried to help me. I've gone to some great treatment centers and had good therapists that tried to help me. I've been involved in 12-step recovery before, but I was unwilling to do the work that I needed to do to help myself. So I think that willingness was the big piece to turn things around.
You literally heard it.
Yes.
Help yourself.
Yeah.
I think we have a similar story there because at the point I felt, that point of no return, at my third psych ward stay of 7, my uncle came to see me. And you know this part of the story. He said, Kevin, we can help you until we... Hear the train. My uncle came to me and he said, we can help you until we're blue in the face, Kevin. But until you help yourself, take responsibility for your actions, and take responsibility and come out of the deniability of your mental illness, nothing will change. And he was right. Yeah. And as harsh as that some people may feel that is,
right.
that directness, that point blank, you've got to help yourself or else. Mm-hmm. That's what I needed to hear. And I had an epiphany right there. And yes, I was in 4 more psych wards after that, but they were all... I walked into those ones.
Yeah.
I walked in and I said, I'm thinking of suicide and I need to be here or I'm going to be dead. Mm-hmm. And they got me to safety. Yeah. And I got lucky. And you and I are lucky in that route that we have families that got behind us, propped us up, supported us, and said, you can do this. What about all those kids that don't have those families, Greg?
Yeah. That
are suffering so deeply and so terribly, and they don't have family in the traditional sense to turn to.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a huge thing, and I'm very grateful I get to work with a lot of young people, majority who are in foster care, who deal with some of the same issues that we do, but like say don't have that family support. It's really one thing about people who do recover is they have that support. And so in working with young people who don't have that family support, or at least family in a positive nature, it's really up to us, not only us with mental health who've been through challenges, but with the broader community to be able to be that support and be there for young people. But I mean, so many of these young people, and seeing them today and how they're enthralled with your in your story and hearing about your wellness is huge, because yes, they need therapists and other types of professionals are beneficial, but for them to be able to hear from someone that's been there, done that, and hear how they've been at the lowest points and are now rising above the challenges to make a difference. And I think one of the things you touched on earlier, which I always try to instill in young people, which was instilled in me through the 12 steps primarily, is we get better by helping other people get better. If we want to, if you want to get better, if you want to improve your life, help somebody else improve their life, and that's been, I've seen that work in my life, and it's been, miraculous.
Absolutely. I mean, I think something to be noted here. Statistically, I said this today. Statistically, okay, 60% of people who volunteer to help other people in any capacity of volunteerism, is that a word? I don't know.
I think so.
Okay, who in any capacity of volunteering to give back to those who have less than them, feel better about their mental health. Feel better about their mental health. Greg, what do?
Feel better about their mental health
by volunteering to help others. Think about that. So you can live a better life, a more mentally sound life, even if you're suffering, by helping someone around you. Now, you have to take care of yourself first. You have to make sure you're in a state of reality where you can do something to help others.
Yeah.
But if you can, do it, because it'll change your life. Greg, okay, you asked me this question. I'm going to ask you this question.
All right.
What does mental wellness mean to Greg Dicharry?
I would say mental wellness means taking care of ourselves and doing what's in our best interest, even if it's not necessarily what we want to do. For a long time, from that first hospital stay, they, told me I was bipolar. They gave me these medicines, and they say, hey, you need to take these. And at that time, marijuana was my, was my medicine. And so it's like, how can you tell me to take these? All I need is weed. And in actuality, as I tried that over the years and years, the weed made things worse, and not taking the medication made things continuously worse, and I did keep ending up in hospitals and worse. So I think for me, ultimately, my wellness is coming to that place and that recognition and being real with myself that at this point in time, it's in my best interest. If I want to have any kind of life and long-term happiness, I need to take these medications. It also became evident to me that if I wanted to have, a life, that I couldn't get high or drink alcohol. That was something that was hard to come to grips with, so I didn't do it. But once, making that recognition and being real enough with myself to say, hey, if I want to be well, if I want to have a happy life, if I want these great things, I need to do, what God has shown me to do, and also what God has shown me not to do. Which is drugs and alcohol and these medications, So that's a big part of it. Like you mentioned earlier, like the gym, which I kind of fluctuate in, but that was something that was huge with me with the depression. People had told me for years and years that, oh, you should really go to the gym, you should try to work out. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And even the times when I knew it would help, but just getting that motivation to just get off the couch, so lethargy, and just, I just watch TV, 20 hours a day, which, just perpetuates the depression and those sorts of feelings. So I think getting active, was a big thing. And then another, big thing for my, wellness is that peer support, the peer support that happens, through, conversating and connecting with other people that are.
Hi, Greg.
Hello, Kevin.
Nice to see you.
And fairly early on, about 10 years ago, I went through a peer support training program, and then had the opportunity to run that same peer training program, and help other people work in the field and get the training they needed and jobs. So that's a big part of my wellness, and I think I guess the reason for my success in overcoming my mental health issues to this point, and substance abuse is it was just instilled into me to help others. So even outside of the work, inside of peer support, within 12-step recovery, I started a meeting at the state psychiatric hospital, like a co-occurring meeting, the forensic unit. So this is all people that have committed horrific crimes and killed family members or killed their kids, and they're all people like me, like us. Really, you talk to them, and the main things is they stopped taking their meds. They were, getting high. These voices started, telling them, that their kid had to die if you want, for the world to live, and like all those sorts of things that I've experienced, myself. That's pretty crazy stuff. And I was just thinking earlier, like, I'm not that far off from, well, when I'd go there, I would, you know, I would just, you know, thank God that I wasn't there, you know, and like, and please don't let me come back to a place like this. Don't come me back to a place like this. And what would come is, well, don't let yourself. So, but with that, you know, the kind of mental illness that I have and how I get way out there. Like, I'd never been violent, but I had been violent in my sort of words and calling and telling people that they needed to die and like all this kind of stuff. Without the family support and without getting into recovery, I could easily be one of those people on the evening news that goes off and thinks that, you know, got to save the world by killing a bunch of people in a theater or whatever.
And live the rest of their lives in prison.
Yeah, exactly. So
wow. You know, it's an interesting point you make, Greg. We're not that far off as people with lived experience and mental illness and depression and people in recovery from being that guy or that girl who commits a horrific act because their brain tells them to. Psychosis can lend itself to violent acts, but let's be honest here, less than 6% of all violent acts are committed by people with mental health conditions. So the media would have us believe that every single murder, suicide, and things of these natures are caused by those with mental illness, and that's just not the case. But I will tell you, mentally unhealthy, unsound, non-treated situations can lead to dark and dismal places, and it can put people in prison for the rest of eternity. And these people, you know what, as much as you might say they're bad or this is good and they're evil, let's reverse that. They're people too. And they had a life before they attempted to hurt someone. And they'll have a life after that in a dark place.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just having a little bit of experience of that sort of psychosis of thinking things that aren't real or real, and thinking of your, higher place in things, and this. I mean, it's just, I guess, in having experienced that, it's easy to see how it can go from that to just full-blown taking actions on
unravel your entire
sorts
life
of things, and so I'm very grateful and blessed, but like you say, I'm a drink away, a decision to stop taking my meds, or decision I can get high again from being right there in a very very dangerous place, not only for me but for other people and for my family members. I tell you one. We got time for one?
We got time.
All right. So when I was after the time I told you, and I lived in San Francisco for a while in halfway house, and I moved back to Louisiana. I was pretty much homeless. I wasn't talking to my parents. I wasn't working. I was getting high. Just if I got $5, it was going for a nickel bag of weed. If I got a couple more dollars, I was getting cigarettes. And I ended up getting picked up for trespassing at the fairgrounds in New Orleans. Big racetrack where they also have the jazz festival out there. And because I was so crazy and some other stuff I had done before, they put a psychiatric hold on me. But they brought me in, and a couple days later, I finally talked to my mom, and she said, and she's not a religious woman, doesn't go to church or anything. She said, the night you got arrested, I'd been praying to God to ask Him to please help you, and then she said, in the middle of that night, she got the call that I had been arrested, and she said she knew her prayers had been answered, and so that gives me chills now. But so how many parents, when their kids born or when they're young, they say, well, my boy grows up, I sure hope he gets arrested. But I had, through my actions and through my mental health issues and substance abuse issues, I had driven her to that point where that was the best outcome that could happen at that point, and at least she knew that I was safe,
alive.
Yeah, and alive. And so, that goes to your talk, earlier a little bit, just around the police and back of the police car. I've been in back of lots of police cars. Twice I've kicked side windows out of back of police cars, and by the grace of God, they didn't beat the hell out of me, and nothing happened from it. So whether it be psychiatric professionals or police, that there's a lot of good ones out there. And although I've been in the back of a lot of police cars, I don't really I pretty much and been forced hospitalized a bunch of times. I see it as a blessing because I'm not saying that's the case for everyone. In my case, who knows what happened, because I was a danger to myself and others. If they hadn't intervened, if I hadn't got that treatment right then, who knows what would have happened. So I think it's balancing between those issues, the issues, because a lot of times with the mental health advocacy, you get people saying, oh no, you shouldn't take medication, it's mind control or whatever. Well, that's fine if that's what's good for you, but for me, from my experience, I need to take medication, and I don't appreciate it if you don't judge me for that or ask like I'm and likewise with things like forced hospitalization, recognizing that it's not right for people to get forced treatment against their will as a general rule, but some people like myself numerous times do benefit from that, so it's just finding that balance of how we can help and assist people in their time of need, and it's just a tough issue where it's not so black and white, and oftentimes it's easy made black and white. Oh, you're either for this or you're against this, and kind of looking at various sides of the story.
It's not black and white. There's a great gray area. It's a massive one. Hey, you out there suffering mentally, behaviorally, let Greg talk to you.
Awesome. All right. So if you're out there, if you're dealing with some mental health issues or other struggles or challenges, look at this guy. If he can be smiling and happy like this after jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge about 90 feet and plummeting into the water,
it was a
saved by
mistake.
sea
The
lions
worst mistake I ever made, but
stuff.
I'm glad to be alive.
Yes, he is. But he can be an inspiration. And so there's opportunities to learn from people like Kevin and watch videos, but there's an opportunity to really reach out for help, really ask somebody how to get help, really ask for that willingness to talk to a friend, to talk to a loved one, and just tell them what's going on. And also ask for that willingness to not be afraid to get help. You can get help out there. There's people like therapists and psychiatrists who you can see. It's all confidential. A lot of people worry about it, being on the Facebook that you're getting help for mental health issues. No, there's laws behind that. What you say to a therapist or if you go to seek treatment, that's all confidential. So it's important to go, be honest, be open, tell them what you're going through, and really make a decision for yourself what the best treatment is for you. And be sure to watch Kevin Hines' story. 10, that's 4, that's 5, and that's 5 more steps to wellness with Kevin Hines.
So just to be clear, it's 10 steps, okay?
Oh.
10 steps.
Okay.
To the art of wellness, a quick guide to hope.
Thank you,
Greg Dicharry.
Hey.
I'm going to give you a hug, brother.
All right, man, thanks.
Oh, man. There it is.
All right, let's go eat our burger.
We out.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.